Lake Washington traffic, floatplane 15 Gulf, Kirkland shoreline, sliding north.
Awesome.
All right.
Cool.
Cool.
Too far, carpet cold,
Okay.
flap set, area ahead, takeoff slide clear, just peek over your shoulders there.
Yeah.
Go ahead and pull that water rudder up.
Okay.
Go ahead and
Okay.
launch that. All right, stick full aft.
Full aft.
And about 3 seconds, go ahead to full power.
Okay. Oh.
All the way forward, awesome. Cool, just directional control with your rudder.
Okay.
Cool, there's maximum
About
pitch
that.
nose up. We'll just reduce that back pressure.
Okay.
I'm just gonna add about 5 degrees of flaps here. Give us
Okay.
a little bit more lift just to get right off those crests. You can feel it wants to.
Yep.
There we go. Cool.
There we go.
Pitch down just a little bit. Cool. PY, positive rate. There we go.
Hey guys, welcome back to Heavy Metal Horizons, Cars, Airplanes, and Heavy Metal. So this video is going to be all about my first ever seaplane flight. Now this was something I wanted to do for a really long time, and it did not disappoint. I mean, this was just an awesome experience. So the footage that you're about to see is from my introductory seaplane lesson at the Kenmore Air Harbor in Kenmore, Washington. Now what's funny is I grew up in Woodinville, Washington, and Kenmore is like 15 minutes away. It's basically right next door to it. And growing up, I kind of vaguely knew that there was a seaplane airline over in Kenmore, but at the time I wasn't really thinking about being a pilot myself, so it was just never something that I was really that aware of. And to be honest, I'm kind of kicking myself for not getting into it earlier because it's such a cool place. Like the Kenmore Air Harbor is a place that kind of I mean, aside from just all kinds of seaplane operations, they sort of specialize in doing like restorations and a lot of modifications and maintenance and stuff for a lot of like classic seaplanes like the de Havilland Beaver. In fact, I believe they even did the restorations on Harrison Ford's airplane and also Kenny G's airplane, the saxophone guy. All right, guys, real quick. Now, if you enjoy videos about airplanes, aviation, or cars, and you have not already subscribed, please consider subscribing right now. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into this flight. It was fascinating and really eye-opening and educational in a lot of ways. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. So the flight began with just the pre-flight inspection and the instructor showing me some ways of handling the airplane when it's at the dock. Now this plane is a Cessna 172 on floats, obviously. And one of the really cool things is that, you know, you'd think a big airplane like this, it's made out of metal, it's going to be hard to move around. But when it's floating in the water, it just takes pressure from your fingertips to move it, which was really crazy. After that, we got in the plane and started up the engine, and then he started showing me some of the basics of how to taxi on the water.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I got you fine.
Alrighty, yep.
All right.
Sounds good. Alrighty, so in a seaplane, you'll notice as soon as the engine's going, we're moving.
Yeah.
So you really got to pay attention, eyes up outside as opposed to starting to configure down here. So that's one transition error that students experience is just kind of, okay, my eyes are up, what's happening? So I got a boat off to my left. I've got the Super Cub coming back in on the water.
Yep.
After going over the basics of taxiing and using the water rudders, and then also just basic situational awareness of the area that we were taking off from, then we started getting ready to do the run-up test and then the actual takeoff.
Awesome. So for the run-up, we're going to hold stick full aft,
Okay, full
maintain heading with our rudder,
Okay.
increase to about 1800 RPM. We'll do our carpet, deck mags, full back to idle. We want to do it fairly quickly just so we're not stuck in a plow phase
Yeah, yeah.
in the water. Cool, so here we go.
Okay.
Alrighty, go ahead. Yep, left mag.
Okay.
Clean drop, okay. Back to both. Right mag. Okay, within 100 there. Back to both.
Okay. Car feet.
RP.
Okay.
Alright. And then back to idle.
Alright. Yeah, that's something I've been thinking about. Is like, how do you do the rub? Because the airplane's going to move.
You just keep
know?
on trucking.
Yeah.
You can't quite hold the brakes.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised how many folks lift their feet up, try to do so.
So after doing the run-up and making sure everything was looking good with the engine, we did one more 360 turn on the water just to clear the area, make sure there's nothing in the way, and then it was time for the takeoff. And this was my first takeoff in the seaplane.
Kind of checking all the way around us. This is kind of run-up area. Let's position ourselves facing our final. Right, we don't have a designated runway direction.
Right.
So we're kind of checking everywhere. We know generally we land either to the north or the south here.
Yeah.
Taking a look-see. Giving Quinn plenty of space and out that direction. Cool.
Skyway 925 Victor.
Already, we're on through our CFAR checklist, which is carpet cold.
Okay.
Flaps, we're going to set to 15 for a normal takeoff.
Okay.
This selector is a little bit iffy.
Yeah.
You kind of just verify over your shoulder there.
Sure.
Cool. Area, we just cleared the 360. We got Quinn climbing out that direction. And ahead is clear.
Okay.
Last thing we do.
Water
rudders. Oh, got them in bend there.
Okay.
Kenmore traffic, floatplane 15 Gulf, sliding south. Kenmore.
Kenmore, Beaver 900 Kill Alpha, home point 600 feet southbound out of Kenmore.
So your controls, right?
My controls,
Okay.
sir. Get you doing a landing over in the middle of the lake. Cool, so there's our first rise. There's our second rise. Maximum pitch nose up.
Yeah.
Just bringing that nose over. Accelerating across the water surface. A little bit of skipping there. We'll just raise that back pressure. Cool, just waiting the airplane to accelerate to flying speed.
Wow.
Nice and smooth. All right, go ahead and be on the controls with me here.
Okay.
We'll climb up another 100 feet.
Okay.
And this is one of the biggest differences when you start flying floats is spending most of your time between the surface and 1,000.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. So we'll lower that nose just a little bit. Get our power reduction back a little bit more. Cool. This is kind of our comfort zone between the surface and 500 here.
Okay.
Got a little bit better visibility. You can kind of see what's happening down on the water.
Yeah.
You can still see the water texture here from about this height.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
closer you get a little bit more detail.
Yeah.
Alrighty, your flight controls.
Okay, my controls.
Your controls.
4
Okay.
miles north, west of the airport, sending out a 2,400 inbound for 45 for 35 years.
Alrighty, so we can see Sand Point up ahead here.
Okay.
We'll just kind of follow the shoreline for that left turn back into Lake Washington.
Okay.
Right, so you can see high-wing Cessna performs very much the same way it does on floats or wheels. A little bit more drag beneath you, a little bit slower,
All right.
but it lets you play around on a big, beautiful lake
County
like
traffic,
this.
Scott, A396 X-ray is starting our teardrop at the 45 for runway 35, Pierce County. Pierce County traffic, Cessna 901 Mike is 3 miles northwest of the airport at pattern altitude. We're just entering the
Space
45
Needle off
now.
there.
And have you guys
Yeah.
Right over the
got your
hill.
set as well? We'll follow you in.
Kenmore traffic, floatplane 15 Gulf, just north Sand Point, 500 feet southbound, switching. Alright, we'll switch to our Lake Washington frequency here, 229. This is our changeover point between these 2 points here.
Okay.
Lake Washington traffic, floatplane 15 Golf, 500 feet, just north Sand Point, southbound, Lake Washington.
Can I follow this around here?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
All right, you see the 520 bridge?
Yep.
See the east high rise of it?
Yep.
Up on this side of the lake, we'll just head straight that direction.
Okay, you got it. You can even see Mount Rainier.
Yeah, it's getting to be a nice day out. Alrighty, so this is pretty much our practice area here, this wide open section of lake.
Okay.
Pretty good commute.
Yeah.
What we're looking for here is from that 500 feet, we just like to do a general shape of a power off 180 back to land in that 180 degree direction. So we know our primary wind direction's from the north.
Okay.
So that's the direction we want to be within. So from here we run through our CFAR checklist. Basically it's a beam our landing point, right? Kind of a beam the numbers. That's generally where we'll call.
Okay.
So right here, middle of the lake, no issue. We're going to be landing back to the north. So that power reduction is going to come in here.
Good.
Carby on.
Carpet on.
Below 100. We're going to take that down to flaps 15. Cool. We got a lake amphib on the water right here, if you can see
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Pretty cool.
Those are slick, yeah.
Alrighty, and we'll start that 180 degree turn. And we just kind of do a continuous turn all the way to the 180. We don't need to roll out wings level on that base turn.
Okay. Is there a particular airspeed I should be aiming?
Looking good. Yeah, so a little bit slow right there. We're looking for about 65 or so, right? 75, 60, 65, sorry, 70, 65, 60 right for touchdown.
Okay.
Cool, so we'll just keep that turn coming around, about 150 to go. And we'll face right about Champagne Point, right about there. Cool.
All right.
Keep that coming down. Airspeed's looking good. About 100 to go. Okay, I can see where the water is. We're going to descend right down to it. Then about 40 feet AGL. I'm going to start bringing that nose up, getting to our step attitude, just like we were when we were step taxiing on the water.
Okay.
Okay, and then controlling our descent rate with our power. So we'll keep that nose up just a little bit higher. Good. Just controlling our descent.
Blue Skyway. Miles.
There we go, and then just waiting for that water to arrive to the floats.
Lake Washington traffic, like 61966, 200 feet, Sand Point, that will be landing.
Cool, throttle idle.
Okay.
Gradually, a little bit rough there. And nice and gradually stick full aft as we get through our plow phase.
And then you kind of sink down into it.
Exactly,
right?
yeah. As soon as that weight transitions from up top down to the floats, now we're nice in displacement. You can go ahead and grab that water rudder down
Back
and
like
just
that?
drop it. You got it. Cool. RB cold.
Okay.
How'd that feel?
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool. It's, so it's,
The pattern shape comes quicker, right? It's a little bit more when you're just descending from 500.
Yeah.
Right, and you get a little bit more dynamic of environment. I can land here, I can land here, I can accept a crosswind slide that direction, right? You have all these options, you just try to do it deliberately.
Right.
Okay, so now when we did that first landing, one of the things that really surprised me that I was just not expecting is how hard the water feels when you're landing on it. When you think about it, I mean, you're when you touch down, you're probably going 45, maybe 50 knots, pretty fast, like 55, 60 miles an hour when you touch down in the water. And at that speed, it feels like you're hitting a hard surface. And so there's a lot of vibrations and everything. And, when I think of water, you think of like, being on a boat just kind of wafting around the ocean or something. But when you come in at that speed, it's really hard. So the lesson continued, and we flew over the 520 bridge there on Lake Washington. And I even got to do some radio calls.
Lake Washington traffic, Cessna floatplane 15 Golf, midspan 520 northbound. All right. Even if I don't know what I'm doing, I always want to sound like I know what I'm doing.
Yep, on down towards the water.
Okay.
So after doing several more takeoffs and landings, we came back in for our final landing of the lesson, and then we did something called a step taxi to get back to the Kenmore Air Harbor. And this is sort of where you're using the airplane almost like a speedboat.
Off in that landing. Here comes the water. There we go. Cool. Good. We'll just control it. Awesome. And we could just leave it on step. Go ahead and add about 200 RPM or so. And we can just coast it right on in.
So that's a step taxi, right?
You got it.
And am I keeping the back pressure?
Just enough to be in that step attitude,
Okay,
right? If I go too far forward, we start introducing drag forward of our center of buoyancy on that forward section of the float.
Okay.
Too far aft, it starts skipping. Right? We're just finding that landing attitude.
Okay.
Where our minimum drag is. Cool, so just kind of cruising on top of the water like that. Nice and comfortable.
And then after all that excitement, we just gently cruised back to the dock, and it was really cool to see some of the other seaplanes that are parked around there. And of course, when you do reach the dock, you want to make sure you get out of the correct door so you don't just step off into the water. Okay, now this whole flight was awesome, but there were a few things that really stuck out to me that were really surprising. One was, the hardness of the water. The other thing was how much you feel the effects of the wind on the airplane, how it kind of steers the airplane around, and also the left turning tendencies of the airplane, which has to do with P factor and the torque of the engine and a bunch of stuff like this. But it causes basically the airplane to want to turn left. And when you're sitting on the ground, just like at a standstill, you don't really feel any of these effects. Like maybe you feel like a really strong wind or something like that, but most of the stuff you just don't feel when you're sitting on the ground. But in the water, the airplane can move all around. And so the left turning tendency, the airplane is just sitting there, but it starts to rotate to the left just on its own. And same thing, if you've got a strong wind coming, the wind will just start to push the airplane around on its own without you doing anything.
There we go.
Okay.
Cool. And then throttle idle. And just gradually stick full aft as we get through our plow phase. Awesome.
Cool.
Sweet. Nice and comfy.
All right.
Good descent profile. If we're taxiing around, then we can go water rudders down.
Okay.
I think it just wants to take us to the left.
It's amazing how quick that happens.
Yeah. And there's our wake.
Yeah.
With the wind issue, though, the cool thing about seaplane flying is, provided you have a large enough body of water, you can land or take off in any direction you want. So you can line up with what would be a perfect headwind and just take off into it. And of course, on a regular land airport, you don't have that option. All right, guys, so that was my first ever seaplane flight lesson. It was really, really cool. Again, this was something I'd wanted to do for a while. I'd tried to do it earlier, but they had some wildfires actually last year up in Washington, and so there's smoke everywhere when I was up there before, and it got canceled and everything. But it was just a really, really, when I finally was able to do it, it was a really fun, really cool experience. So if anybody is interested in doing something like that, I'm going to put links for the Kenmore Air Harbor down in the video description below. This is not a sponsored video or anything like that, but it's just something I had a great time doing it, and I highly recommend it. And keep in mind, you don't have to be a pilot or even a student pilot to go and do it. You can do it if you have, zero flying experience. And I want to give a big shout out to my instructor in the video there, Robbie. He did a great job, very competent instructor, and I had a really good time. All right, guys, that is it. Let me know what you thought of that flight in the video description below. And as always, guys, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you soon.